Welcome back to Humans of Fintech, the podcast that highlights the inspiring individuals changing the landscape of the fintech world. I'm your host, Nicole Casperson, and today I'm thrilled to be sitting down with Ashley Fox, founder and CEO of Empify. Ashley founded Empify with a clear mission in mind: to provide financial education tools and resources to the 99%, the vast majority of people who Wall Street has traditionally overlooked. Through Empathy, Ashley is on a mission to arm underserved communities with the knowledge and skills to take control of their financial futures. Her dedication to financial literacy has helped countless individuals break down barriers and gain access to the kind of financial resources that were once out of reach for many. Today, we'll dive into her journey and the impact Empathy is having on the financial landscape. Ashley, welcome to the show. I'm so excited for you to be here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Yes. Coming here from
Atlanta.
Yes. All right. What are you doing in New York?
Well, I love New York. I used to live here, but we are doing a lot of great things at Empify, and so I just recently went on Angela Yee's Way Up podcast, her radio show. I'm going on Yahoo Finance. I'm doing another podcast. So a little bit of connection, but also a lot of podcasts, live TV, radio shows. So yeah.
Yeah, getting the word out. No,
Yes.
I love it. That's amazing. And then of course you're speaking.
Oh yes, and I'm here.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm in the podcast lineup. Yes.
Yes,
And then
you are.
Humans of Fintech, but of course you're speaking at the Fintech is Family Leadership Summit, April 23rd at the Time Center, and we're so excited about that. Now, this is Humans of Fintech, so I always like to start with getting into the more human side of someone's story and how one becomes a human of fintech. So tell us a bit about that lived experience that really pushed you to start a financial education platform.
So I never wanted to. I always wanted to be on Wall Street. So I went to Howard, had 4 internships at Howard, landed my dream job working in asset management for one of the biggest banks in the world. And I helped rich people stay rich. So if you had at least $25 million, it was our job to help grow your wealth, protect it, and preserve it. And I learned a lot. After about, I would say 8-9 months, I felt like I deserved to be the client. And I also felt like when I went back home to Philly, where I'm originally from, people thought I had a lot of money. And it's like, when I'm making 6 figures, I'm making good money, but this is not the kind of money that I'm seeing every day. And I just felt like for something that we use every day, why do you have to go to school for finance, work on Wall Street like I did to get access to the tools and resources the 1% get access to? And I understood, but I also wanted to bridge that gap. And so I ended up leaving Wall Street July 12, 2013, with the intent to take the Wall Street knowledge and translate it into a digestible language for the everyday person. Because like I said, you shouldn't have to go my route in life to get access to the resources that I saw on Wall Street. And now I had no idea what I was going to do. I did not know how. I just knew Ashley Fox was going to be the one to do it, and I knew why it had to be done. And so I created this word called Empathy, where, interestingly enough, I actually sat in front of, I used to work at Credit Suisse in investment banking, and I remember sitting in the park with a really good friend of mine trying to figure out what is the name of this thing you're about to create. And I found out that Verizon is vertical and horizontal put together, and I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, vertical, yeah. And so I'm like, maybe I can make up a word, because it wasn't really about money. It was about shifting the mindsets of the people who don't have the identity of the individuals that have money, right? Yeah. And so I listed all these words on a piece of paper, and I found this random website. I don't know what it is to this day. And I put all those words, and all the words described what I wanted to give the world. And 2 of the words were empower and modify. And so it merged together and created Empathy. Nice. So now I looked it up on the trademark website, and I said, okay, I think my company is going to be called Empathy, because yes, it's about giving people financial education, but if you lack inspiration and only have education, you don't feel like you can do it. Yes. And so, yes, we're going to give you that education, but we're going to give you the empowerment. We're going to go within to show you what you can create yourself. And then when you get the education, you feel empowered to do something with education. It then modifies the way you see yourself in the world of money in your life. And so Empathy is the merging of the word empower and modify put together. Now, at that point, I made up a word. I still had no business model. I had no revenue.
You're like, I did it. I made up a word.
I was like, this is what the world is going to get, because it was a feeling. Right. And interestingly enough, while I had Empathy as this feeling, I was a financial advisor. So when I left Wall Street, I still had my security licenses, but I wanted to target the low to moderate income individuals, and built a financial advisory business. But I got more joy out of the education versus implementation. And so that is when Empathy, all the way in 2016, where I taught 3 schools for free teaching the youth financial education. And so in 2017 in Philadelphia, we landed a contract with the school district of Philadelphia, and we were in 26 schools in the city. And that is when Empify made its first stream of revenue, and we became a business. And that is when I realized I knew I wanted to be what Harvard is to education. I wanted to be the Harvard of finance. I wanted adults and children from all over the world to get access to those tools and resources that they did not get growing up, that they did not get in the school system. They just come to Empify to get in. And so if we fast forward to today, Empify was always in my heart. Mm-hmm. It was always what I wanted to give the world. I just couldn't always define it, which is why I made the word up. And we are a company that is revolutionizing how adults and children learn how to build wealth. And so we have our membership-based platform, the Wealth Builders Community, which our members like to call like the Netflix of finance. Mm-hmm. And so we have over 250 hours of classes, tools, resources. We have events and teaching from buying your first stock to getting a will and a trust to passing down the wealth that you created, from retirement planning to parent investing, and really giving that Wall Street exposure to the everyday person and targeting the 99% that Wall Street typically does not target when it comes to money.
Wow. That is an incredible story, Ashley. And honestly, so many things, but I think for me, a big thing that stands out is the conviction and just that kind of forward thinking that you had to know that education was the place to be in this space. We've seen a lot of personal finance management apps in the fintech space come and go and not really be able to crack the revenue generating model. And I've written in my newsletter for years that I believe the reason we're not doing it is because we're not listening to people. Mm-hmm. We're telling people, oh, hey, you have debt, so manage it with an app that's kind of like an Excel spreadsheet, but not, right? We're not, and it's like, is that what they actually wanted? Mm-hmm. It's all nice that you could give people all these tools, but if they don't actually know what's going on behind the scenes, or to your point, capable of actually changing their mindsets around money, then these tools are not really going to work. And we've seen that play out with them shutting down or having to just get acquired and them not actually growing into a certain scale. So I feel like you've intuitively done what the consumer really wants and needs. And so I guess, how have you been able to tap into that, like knowing exactly that this was the route to go?
I can't say that I have the blueprint. I just, like you said, it was a feeling. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, you can't just tell people what to do, because the issue isn't, it's not that we don't have the tools, it's we don't have the identity of someone who builds wealth. Yeah. If we're not talking about it or surrounded by it, we don't even think we belong in the room. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's more of, sometimes I like to say Empify is like the therapist we needed to help us build wealth. We just so happen to teach money, because you have to break the mental barriers of like, hey, you don't need a lot of money to invest. You don't have to look a certain color or be a certain gender to be able to build wealth. You can start with $5, right? And really understanding how people need to hear it. I remember going into the school system and they were just like, how do you keep the kids awake? And it's like, well, how do you let them sleep? Well, what does the child want to know, right? You want them to learn this topic, but what do they want? They want to have fun. They want to be engaged. And so when we built Empify, and even our education, just the infrastructure, we looked at all of our shareholders. Mm-hmm. What does everyone involved want to get out of this? I know I want to give you financial education, but if you're not looking for financial education because we've been okay without it all these years, I have to give you what you want. So how can I meet you where you are, do it with you, and then build you up to get you there? Because people aren't driven by results, they're driven by progress. How can I help you open your first brokerage account? How can I help you buy your first stock? How can I then know to help you invest for your kids? Well, if you ask people what they really want to do, they'll tell you, but we're so often trying to give people what we want or build a business that we want to generate revenue, where for me, it was never about money. We just so happened to learn how to make money. It was, without a doubt, I am going to be the woman to financially empower the world because I am the middleman. I understand Wall Street enough, and I understand you enough, from the child in the prison system to the Wall Street billionaire. I understand both sides, and I know what both of you want. How can we work together, and Empify is the middleman to do it?
Yeah, wow. I resonate with it so much because I do feel like a bridge myself in terms of where I sit in media and finance, right? Like people are often like, oh, your content is more accessible, or, it's just refreshing to read a newsletter that talks and writes about the industry, but from a female perspective. And it's like, yeah, well, when I represent the consumer that I'm creating or, building for, then yeah. And if I'm willing to actually listen to them, there have been Plaid reports for years showing what consumers really want. And they want more financial education from their fintech apps. They want, and that's like the highest percentage, and they want basic financial knowledge. They still are not sure how FICO scores work, Shoot, half the time I barely understand what's going on with the FICO score anyways, but or they want to, right? They want to understand how to build an emergency savings, like still these basic things that our education system isn't doing. So I guess I think one of the, obviously you have to start with changing behaviors. So where does that start for your users in the app? How do you start shifting the mindset so they can see themselves as people that obviously like can build wealth?
Mm-hmm. Well, at first, even before they get inside of our platform, it's even just how you're communicating with them to make them feel safe enough to get in the platform. When you think about finance, people are scared. People get scammed. They're overwhelmed. And don't let them start reading the news. Like, people are just scared. So it's like, all right, I know who I'm talking to. You're scared. Let me ease your pain. Let me just calm you down. Hey, you may have been scammed. You're not trusting. Okay, let me show you our credentials. Let me show you my credentials. Let me show you what I get out of this. Because most times people are trying to make money off of you. And rightfully so. It's business. But the better our education, the better our product. Versus trying to sell you a product. You want the product when we make the education better. So how do I create the best education that produces results? And so first is understanding what it is you want and where you're lacking it. Because it's not that people don't have money. Because we can spend check to check, and we may think we live check to check, but we're spending check to check. If you can find $5, you can own a piece of $1 billion business. We're going to show you how to get that done. And what you once thought was so hard, we're going to produce the results. So when I look at Empify, we're going to become the #1 company that produces investors, from the child, the moment they get a social security number, to the 79-year-old woman who's inside of our membership-based platform, Wealth Builders community. And so getting into the platform, it's understanding, what do you want to do? What are people looking to do? We want to create passive income. Okay, you're not coming here to get rich quick. So I give you that disclaimer first. So I set the expectation. We're not going to get you rich quick, right? But we can help you ensure that you have wealth for the rest of your life, and your kids' are set. But that's how I was raised on Wall Street. That's how I saw our wealthy clients. And then also putting you in a space where people who look, operate, and move like you, right? Okay. You're able to now see the moms just like you. You're able to see the people who are over 50. You're able to see them bragging about the first $5 dividend they got, where outside of the app, you thought you were embarrassed because you only had enough to invest $5. Well, no, we're celebrating you. We're sending you gifts. We're having parties where we're all coming together and we're investing. To this point, our members have invested over $9 million. And these are the same people who never had a brokerage account or had an account and had no idea how to use it. And it's like, here's what we can do together. So now I'm not doing it alone. I now have a place where I feel safe. And I think a lot of people want safety. So it's first cultivating that safe environment to know, hey, this is what I do get out of this. This is why we are here. This is what we do. And this is where we're going. We have the beginner resources. We have the advanced resources. Based off of what you need, here's what you have access to. And there's an abundance of resources out there. Let me just direct you based off of what it is you need and what you're looking to accomplish.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that's how you're able to help with some of the overwhelm, right? Like, I think there have been platforms out there and investing platforms that have tried to mimic social media and that, do well to start, but aren't really cracking that financial literacy and education barrier, right? Like, there's still this clear holistic need that isn't being met clearly, since the average American still, doesn't have enough for an emergency, right? And so I guess, like, yeah, how do you help your users not feel too overwhelmed by everything that you're able to provide? There's must be kind of a I don't know, like a trail or a path, right, for them where it gets personalized. How have you kind of figured out that functionality?
So I can't say we figured it out. We are figuring it out.
Working on it always.
But I can tell you this. Every time I see a member, like, for example, we call in our app the Golden Society, the people who are over 50. I automatically know you're behind. You think you're behind. You wish you would have met us 20 years ago. Yeah. So I have to contradict the negative thinking you have and constantly embed it in your mind. For example, now there's fear with the market. There's fear with the economy, the presidential, like everything is fear. Every single day in my app, I'm going to remind you why you're doing this. Because there's no system, there's no president, there's no infrastructure that is more important than your family's legacy. These next 4 years, regardless of how you feel, we're going to win. This is about to be the next best 4 years of my life because there's no person that dictates my financial future. And it's sometimes reminding them and embedding them in their mind. And that's why I'm very firm on people having an annual membership because one, you can't quit on Empify. I'm going to push you to have an annual membership because I know you're scared. You might feel like it's a lot. You might then feel like all the people are so successful, but the more we're in your mind, the more we're pushing you, the more we're celebrating you. I know you don't get that outside of our platform. And so we're essentially working to help people unlearn. So whether it's the post on our platform, the emails that we send out, we call it an Empathy, like where's the Empathy in this? Like when whoever we hire on our team, the content that we write, every post that I make, what is the Empathy in the messaging that we're giving? Because every day I have to show you how to unlearn, but then relearn a new way of life, right? And so knowing that everyone feels that, I'm combating that every single day in the education that we create, from whether it's written, whether it's video. It's a standard. From the frameworks to the posts that get in our app, there is a science to how we serve the people that we serve, where we are combating their fears, their doubts, their worries, their not enoughness. And that's a standard at Empathy.
Yeah, no, that actually makes a lot of sense. You're really getting to the root of the problem, which no app really does. So you're really, I'm like, yeah, I want Ashley Fox to wake me up every morning and tell me that the next 4 years are about to be the best of your life.
Every single day.
You should make one of these for entrepreneurs, I think, right? Because when I first started my business, that was probably one of the hardest things for me to get over, actually, was that scarcity, right? That fear that, oh my gosh, the paycheck's not coming in every couple weeks, right? And also, when you said earlier, I remember when you thought six figures was
a lot of money.
That was so sweet.
I remember I thought $1 million was a lot of money too.
Yeah,
I know.
Right.
But even just that concept, that's how you know money is relative. What was so big back then is not a big deal anymore, which means that same big number that you think is big can at one point become a small number if you just change the way you look at it. So now I'm like training my mind that Empify is $1 billion business because $1 billion is so big, but why is it so big?
Yeah.
It's not big to Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
So why can't it be small to Ashley Fox? But it goes the same way with our members. What you thought was once scary, you're doing. And I remember when you didn't know how to open a brokerage account. We're bringing in CEOs of publicly traded companies to come talk to our members because they're buying their stock or they're buying their REIT. But it's like, you would have never wanted to talk to this person or even knew what they were talking about if we didn't give you the education and confidence to now say, bring in this mutual fund company. Oh, I know what a mutual fund is now. I'm not running away from these people. I actually can speak their language. So it's all relative if you start to convince yourself that what was once a big deal or so scary is actually something simple you can do.
No, that's incredible. I think, and also, the people aren't going to just listen to earnings calls to figure out how a company is doing, right? Not to mention, I think sometimes just putting like financial data in front of a everyday consumer and just being like, enjoy trading stocks. It's like, I don't know what VO is, right? Like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. So you have such an incredible, behavioral finance element to this that I think I don't see a lot of fintech companies able to figure out. And I think it's all to the point of, because we really do think we know more than a consumer. So we think we know what they want and create instead of actually listening to them, like what you've done. But I know that you also have like this greater vision. Like, as you're telling me so much of this story, I'm in my head, I am always just like, because I used to write about the wealth management space. And so, you were tired of making rich people richer. I was tired of writing about rich people and making them richer by writing about them more and giving them more attention and more headlines. And I was like, do I really need to cover Goldman Sachs's next $1 billion again? Like, I'm exhausted. What's so much more interesting is seeing, someone different have that kind of wealth. All to say, I think you have like a bigger vision when it comes to really building, right, with and being able to leverage the data that you are able to have on your members and maybe working that up the wealth management ladder. And maybe, is there any vision in terms of having and maybe even working with some of the larger institutions?
So yes, we have been approached by a lot of them.
I'm sure.
And we have worked with a lot of them. But the vision is to be undeniable. You want our audience, they come to Empify first before they trust you. And it's not that the banking system is not a trustworthy, it's just you have to understand how they do their business and what impacts their bottom line. And getting into a point where, hey, I'm a brokerage company, I want to go get customers. Well, Empify can open 2,000 brokerage accounts through this program, or Empify can help people invest over $9 million. We have every transaction that our members tell us, and we can tell you how many transactions they're processing at what point and with what company. To then take that data, you put 100,000 people in our app, we're investing $100 million, right? To a point where I know I don't want to be the institution. I want to bridge the gap, right? To a point where you want life insurance customers. Well, they come to Empify to understand life insurance because they can't trust life insurance agents. And again, their job is to make money. Our job is to educate you. We're going to show you all your options. Then we're going to vet the people, which is what we actually do now from a B2B standpoint. We will vet the people, come into the platform, and then you can decide if you like them. But now they're not speaking a language you don't understand. We do it with retirement specialists, with financial advisors. We do it with life insurance agents. We're starting to do it with estate attorneys, where I don't want to be the expert anymore. I don't want to be the financial advisor. I want to show you that at some point in your life, it is okay to have a financial advisor, but here's how you understand how they get paid. Here's how you understand if you need one. And here's how you understand what they're actually talking about. So many of our members come to us and say, I'm actually smarter than my advisor because I know what they're doing and I think I can do it better. And that's rightfully so. You might not have to pay that management fee because you know how to invest in your own mutual fund or your own stocks. And so being able to bridge that gap so much that, one, if you want the customers that we serve to utilize your financial products and services, that's fine. We want to vet you to ensure that we are aligned with what you do, but we want to educate them and let them choose so much that they need us to get to you and you need us to get to them, which is what I was when I left Wall Street. When I left Wall Street, I was a financial advisor. I targeted low to moderate income people, but I had access to all these products and services. It was a point where it was like, I was watching my clients invest millions. I watched my clients take out millions of life insurance, and it's like, hey, they would have never called you if I didn't exist. And you would have never even thought to give them a product if I didn't exist. I just built a company that replaced me as the individual that served that audience. The issue is nobody wants to talk to the audience that is scared, that doesn't have a lot of money, that won't walk into a bank because you can't sell them a product. There's nowhere for them to go. It's not that they aren't worthy to be that Wall Street client, but who's going to build them up to do that? That's the part the banking system doesn't want to do. And I 100% understand why. But inside of my heart, that's what I was put here to do. And so I'm going to deal with the trauma, the anxiety, the fears. I'm going to deal with that and break it and get them ready to now have a conversation with you so much that we can grow our members to become that Wall Street client that I used to serve because I helped them believe that they can do it. But now they're not running away from it. They're running towards it. And so we already are at a point where companies, advisors are coming to us. One of the biggest things we're doing now is, one, strengthening the product, getting really good on producing faster results. How fast can we turn someone into an investor where they pick their stock, they do their research, and they're clear? How fast can we open a custodial account? How fast can we get somebody educated with life insurance and things like that? So much that when they produce that result, we say, hey, look, this month, I think the most we invested in a month was like over $250,000. People from all over the world collectively invested over $250,000. I want to do that in a day, right? To be able to show people they're making these decisions on their own. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm giving them the how to get it done. But when they're ready for you, now they're asking questions. Well, hey, we have a lot of resources and people that we partner with that we vetted. You can decide, but we are going to become that middleman. And that's where we start to really become that B2B, because we're more B2C now. And we've worked with municipalities, worked with corporations, but I want to strengthen the actual product itself, the experience for our customer. Because at some point, we're going to build proprietary technology. So right now we license our tech, but I have to build a customizable experience that can then show you when someone's ready for life insurance, ready to open that brokerage account, ready to talk to that retirement specialist. And we're collecting the data. Now I'm learning how to organize the data and tell the story of the data. But I'm watching how fast we're producing results. And if we grow our membership, it's inevitable we're going to turn people into investors and guide them along that journey.
Yeah, no, it's really smart. And the connectivity to what is inevitably going to be B2B, right, makes a ton of sense. Everyone loves embedded finance. And so the amount of embedded financial products you could even have within your app yourself, if, that's how you end up going, is pretty limitless, right? To the point of most people don't trust insurance. Most people don't trust a lot of the traditional financial products simply because they don't know. But it is like fascinating the way that, you've decided to be the one to do the heavy lifting, right? And I find it like just incredible because I don't understand how we've been through all of this time and like no one else wanted to do this heavy lifting.
I think we knew all the time.
Yeah, right. Like I know,
but I just feel like I'm the only crazy because I don't want to make it sound like it's easy because it's very, 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 very hard, and it's so much easier to work with someone who I don't have to convince.
Yes,
you need to invest.
Yes,
but I wasn't put here to keep the rich rich. I was here to pull out the richness inside of the people that I serve.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't feel right if you couldn't pay me to stop doing what I'm doing.
Right.
So I think I'm just the only insane person who actually believes it can be done. Yeah. I've just accepted so nobody just didn't see this problem at all. But why? When you can just work at a bank and make a bunch of money and it's just easier, Right. And again, not to, everybody's journey is everybody's journey, but for me, it was a calling. And it might not be everybody's calling, because if you try to go the same route and all you do and care about is making money, it won't work.
Right.
And I think people know that we actually care. I don't like people coming to our platform and quit. I tell people, please don't come if you're going to quit, because you wouldn't send your child to a school if none of the students graduated. So if you're not going to finish the programs, what does that say about my school if I don't have a good graduation rate? So if you're not ready to put in the work, then I don't want you to mess up my good graduation rates.
Right.
And I want people to finish, because that means I'm not doing my job if you aren't producing the results. So what am I here for if I'm not building a great product for you?
All right, Ashley, as we close out, I really admire the work that you've done, the way that you've been able to do business differently and just look at things through an entirely different mindset. So I guess, and maybe almost like a precursor to the leadership summit that you're speaking at the end of April. But if you could give your younger self, or maybe even picturing that big stage you're going to speak on, and all of the women in the audience who look up to you, what would be your biggest piece of entrepreneurial advice for them?
For the women?
Yeah. Or and yourself.
Okay.
Are they different? You can give me both if they're different. You're like, for me, something different than the women.
It actually could apply, but I'll say it to me, and I'll see if it's applicable. I think it would be, remember those moments you didn't think you were good enough. Mm-hmm. You didn't know what you were doing. I don't think you'll ever know what you're doing. You'll just get really good at being safe in the unknown, but it always works out. And you are undefeated at life. And as long as you keep convincing yourself that you can do it, which is a 24/7 journey, it will work out. Mm-hmm. And I think that, so I have to repeat that to myself every day. But in those moments, specifically when it's a financial struggle, and because I think we have gotten through the struggle phase of, does this work? Can we make money? Now we're in the let's go big, we're scaling, which is a whole different beast that no one tells you about. But I think it's really knowing that you've got this, and don't be afraid to make the investment in yourself, mentally, physically, to turn you into the best version of you so that you can be the best version of you for the world. that's what I would say to Ashley, which I think is applicable to everyone else too.
Yes, I am my audience. So yes, yeah. I'm sitting here like, yes, absolutely. Yes, Mother Ashley, I will say that to myself. I think especially for the founders that in the audience that are more maybe in that pre-seed or not trying to raise, but like starting their product phase, searching for that business model and that revenue model that works. And that is really one of the hardest, I think, breakthrough points is figuring that out and getting that traction. So being able to, wake up every day and kind of tell yourself like, you have a strong track record, you can do this is key. And it's the difference, right, between the people that make it and the ones that don't are they the ones that are able to tell themselves that regularly.
I think it's looking at how far you've come. When I think about Ashley that left Wall Street, that got kicked out of her apartment, to Ashley who made her first 100,000 in business, I grew a lot. To then Ashley who made her first $1 million in business, I grew a lot. And I think to the version I am today, I'm not the same Ashley I was when we crossed our first $1 million, when we crossed our first 100,000, but that is evidence and proof that I can get to the next level. And so I lean more on the gain than the gap of from where I am to where I'm trying to go. Because if I have belief and have evidence to show you that I used to be there and I'm here now, you can't tell me that the exact same woman can't get to where she's trying to get to. And I think it's always remembering that.
So well said, and a great way to close us out. Ashley, thank you so much for being here on Humans of Fintech. It has been such a pleasure, and excited to keep following the journey and see Empify and see you become your $1 billion CEO. Hell yeah. All right. Yes. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Humans of Fintech. If you loved it, be sure to hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.